If you've spent a bit of time in the fitness space on Instagram, you've most likely heard of apps like AI. It's been pretty much everywhere, every influencer seems to promote it, and it seems to have taken over the space. So AI is essentially a food tracking app like many others, except it does have a feature where you can take a picture of a meal, and by using AI and a defined database, it will give you an estimate of how many calories that meal contains. So AI, amongst many others, is what we would consider an AI calorie tracking app. And the premise of it is to make calorie tracking much easier to do by removing the need to scroll through a long database, weigh out your food, and other things that take a bit of time when tracking calories. AI trackers essentially remove all of that. But of course, that also has a negative side. So if you've been wondering whether you should use these trackers or whether you should make the investment or not, I want to show you in a nutshell when AI calorie trackers can be useful. And if at the end you don't think that they'll be useful to you, I'll also show you what you can do and how you can track calories instead. So as I explained, AI calorie trackers belong to a category of food tracking apps that allow you to use AI to take a picture of food, and based on that picture and maybe some additional information, it will give you an estimation of how many calories and macronutrients that meal contains. So generally, this is how these apps function. You start by taking a picture or giving a broad description of what you're reading. The AI will then identify what you're reading based on its computer vision and natural language processing, and it will try to recognize those foods. Then, based on the image, it will also try to guess the portion of food you're having. So once it's done that, the AI will look up those foods and their caloric and macronutrient content in the app's database, and it will automatically log the meals in the app. So this is broadly how these apps function, and their premise is to remove a lot of the work behind tracking calories so that there's less friction to do it and you get more consistent with it. It removes the need to weigh out your food, log it in manually, etc. So AI calorie trackers can seem good, but not in all cases. See, the main problem with these apps is that everything is a guess. They'll guess what food you're having, they'll guess the portion of foods you're having, they'll guess what you've used to cook these foods, and they'll guess a lot of different things. And although in most cases they'll be accurate, they can also easily not be so accurate because there are so many variables to take into account. For example, let's imagine that I used a load of seed oils to cook a meal compared to using a simple spray. The AI wouldn't be able to tell the difference between both when one of the meals has 400 more calories than the other. Another example, let's say I decided to add ketchup on a meal and I mixed it into the meal. How is AI supposed to guess that there's added ketchup? Another example, let's say that I use a specific type of rice that has double the amount of calories. Although I can technically tell AI what type of rice it is, there is still room for inaccuracy. So the main problem with AI trackers is that there's too many instances where it could be inaccurate, and this slight inaccuracy can be the difference between you gaining weight, losing weight, or maintaining your weight. If you're trying to lose weight, a few hundred calories too high every single day is all you need to be back in a surplus and gain weight. If you're trying to gain weight, a few hundred calories too low every single day is all you need to not gain any weight at all. So this small amount of inaccuracy can make a big difference in how your body composition changes over time. And if you use these trackers for pretty much every meal, you will have problems with gaining or losing weight because you'll never truly know how much you're actually consuming. So AI trackers will in most cases not be very useful, but there is actually one scenario in which it can be very useful, and I think it's the only scenario in which you should use it. So the main case where these should be used is in case you need to have an approximate estimation of a meal that you cannot possibly track otherwise. So let's say you're on a cut and you have to stay in between a certain caloric intake. If during that cut you decide to go out with friends and go to a restaurant, in order for you to have an approximate idea of how many calories are in the meal you're having there, you can use these AI trackers to take a quick picture and know approximately how many calories you're having. You don't need to be 100% accurate because you're only doing it one time, but it will already give you an approximate number that will allow you to know approximately how many calories you've had, and you can then adapt the rest of your diet based on that number. So this is a case where AI trackers are actually very useful. In that case, it's not like you're using it with every meal you're having. You're only using it with one meal that you can possibly measure otherwise, and it doesn't really matter if it's a few hundred calories off because it's only one meal. So this is pretty much when AI trackers can actually be useful. If you only use it once in a while with a meal that you couldn't possibly measure any other way, that's a very good way to use AI. But if you're using it on a daily basis with every meal you have, that's when the margin of error will really have an effect on your results. So in the previous section, we've gone over why AI trackers shouldn't be used in most cases and a few cases in which they can actually be useful. So since they cannot be used in most cases, if you want to have accurate measurements, of course, you'll still need to use other methods to track your food properly. So I'm going to show you a few options that you can replace AI trackers with, which will help you measure your food intake based on your preferences and needs. So in terms of other methods, you'll have three options available to you. Based on your own goals and your own personal preferences, you'll be able to choose which version suits you the best and utilize that one. Now, each of those methods will also be measured on three different variables. The first is effort. This represents how much time and effort you'll need to put in to use the method. The second one is precision. This represents how accurate and precise the method is. And then third is variety. This represents how much variety you'll be able to have within your diet. So what you want to do is already think about what matters to you and what doesn't. If you care about precision and variety, one of the three methods will be best for you. If you care about variety and low effort, another method will be best suited for you. Also understand that you won't be able to have all three. You will always have 2 out of 3, but never all, otherwise I would only be speaking about that one. So the first option you have is to track everything manually. So this is obviously the old school way of doing things, but it is very accurate. So in this case, you choose this way of doing things. Here's how you go about it. First, this option still requires you to consume mostly single ingredient foods with not too many different ingredients, but it does allow you to have some freedom to go off diet because as long as you stay within a certain caloric range and you track things properly, you will get to your goal. Then once you have your meals, you'll need to start by choosing a logging method. You can either choose a physical food journal, a spreadsheet, or be like a normal person and use an app. So I would obviously suggest using the app because it does allow you to simply choose from their database, which makes things much quicker and it allows you to have a much bigger track record over time. So overall, just download any food tracking app and use the manual option of these. So it could be MyFitnessPal, MacroFactor, or even CalAI, just not the AI option of these apps. Now, once you've downloaded an app, there's a few pieces of information you'll need to gather. If you're weighing out your food, you'll need to log in what food you're consuming and potentially what type of food it is. So if you have rice, what type of rice do you have, brown or white? You'll also need to log in the amount of that food, which you'll need to measure through either a kitchen scale or measuring cups or spoons, and you'll often need to measure the preparation method. So is it grilled, fried, raw, or something else? Now, if the food you're tracking is in a package, all you'll need to do is scan the barcode, and the app will do whatever it needs to do from there. So in this case, tracking everything you consume does require a lot of effort, but it does allow you to be very precise and also have variety in your diet. So if you want your diet to be very precise while also having variety, and you don't mind the extra effort, this will be your best option. Now, the second option you have that allows you to be very accurate is to eat the same exact things with the same quantity every single day. So this is something that I really like to do, and it's something that allows me to stay lean year round. I always eat the same things over and over again, and this is very helpful for a few reasons. It allows me to not worry about tracking my food every day and still staying lean. It's always the same cost. I can easily meal prep food. I don't have to think about what to eat ever. I can easily buy everything I need at once. I don't waste any food because I know exactly what I need. So overall, there's many reasons why I like this style of eating. Now, of course, there's a few downsides to it, like the fact that it can be very boring. You might have nutritional gaps if you're doing it the wrong way, and other things like these. So the way you'll need to do it is the following. First, you'll need to define a set of meals that you like and contain the exact amount of calories you need and contain all of the nutrients you need. Then you'll need to bulk buy the ingredients you need, and I would then suggest meal prepping for a few days in a row. So in this case, this approach requires zero effort. It is very precise, but it doesn't allow for any form of variety whatsoever. So if you don't mind the lack of variety and you would rather have a diet that's very precise while not having to put in any effort in terms of tracking, this approach would be best suited for you. Now, the final option you have is to eat intuitively and track how your weight is changing over time. So this is obviously not as accurate as the two previous options, but it is valid if you can make it work. If you're trying to lose weight and your weight is steadily going down with the weeks, then you're doing it good. If you're trying to gain weight and your weight is going up steadily over the weeks, that's perfect. You don't always need to track your food. What really matters is that you get closer to your goals. Now, generally, when you follow this approach, your goal should be to consciously choose cleaner food and not just consume garbage. Just because you don't track anything doesn't mean you can eat whatever you want. You should also not eat as much as you want and stay reasonable within the portions you consume. So in this case, this approach doesn't require any effort whatsoever. It allows for variety in your diet, but it is much less precise than the previous two approaches. So if you don't mind it not being as precise and you just want to have variety and not having to put in much effort, this approach would be best suited for you. All you need to do is track how your weight is moving over time, and if it moves in the right direction, you're good. So based on all three options and their specifics, you can choose which option would fit you the best if you even want to track anything at all. The first option allows you to be precise and have variety, but it does take a lot of effort. The second option doesn't require any effort and allows you to be precise, but you can't have any variety. And the last option allows you to have variety while not taking any effort, but it is a lot less precise. So choose which one you prefer, and you can use AI trackers on top of those methods for certain meals, but not as your main tracking method. So this is pretty much all I have for this video. Understand that AI calorie trackers are not a complete solution to tracking calories, and that they should only be used in certain scenarios. In all of the other cases, it's better to use the options that we've discussed and stick with the one that fits your personal needs the best. So thank you for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Peace.